You were born in ancient Rome. Congratulations! You have no idea if that's good or bad yet, because in Rome, your bank account didn't just decide what you ate for dinner, it decided whether you had dinner, whether you owned your house, whether you were someone's house. Level 1. The slave. Net worth, negative. You are the asset. You don't have money, you are money. Your owner paid somewhere between 500 and 2,000 denarii for you at auction. That's about $30,000 to $120,000 in today's dollars. You are a mid-sized SUV. Someone drove you home and parked you in the kitchen. Here's the wild part though. Rome had a secret. Not all slaves were equal. If you were a Greek tutor, a doctor, or an accountant, you were the expensive slave. You got better food, a room, sometimes even a small allowance called a peculium, pocket money your master let you keep so you'd work harder. Rome invented the performance bonus for slaves. The villain here isn't just cruelty, it's math. Your master didn't beat you because he hated you, he didn't beat you because he liked you either. He beat you or rewarded you based on your output. You were a human spreadsheet cell. In that logic, pay people just enough to keep producing, never enough to stop needing you. That logic never died. I just got a LinkedIn profile. The escape hatch? Manumission. Your master could free you. Some slaves saved their peculium for years, bought their own freedom, and became freedmen. Former slaves who got rich enough actually ran some of Rome's biggest businesses. Rome's version of "I started from the bottom" was extremely literal. Level 2. The freedman. Net worth 0 to, wait, actually, a lot. You're free now, technically. You owe your old master loyalty forever. You can't vote in most elections. You can't hold most government jobs. The aristocrats look at you the way people look at someone who just got out of prison. They respect that you made it, and they will absolutely never invite you to their dinner party. But here's the thing about freedmen in Rome. They were sneaky rich because Roman nobles thought business was beneath them. Trading in the market, running shops, lending money, disgusting. That's for commoners. So who ran the markets? Who ran the shops? Who lent money at interest while the aristocrats were too busy pretending to be above money to actually make any? Freedmen. Rome's entire merchant class was basically built on the backs of people the aristocrats refused to acknowledge. The freedman became the Roman middle class before Rome knew it had a middle class. Some freedmen got extremely wealthy. Trimalchio, a fictional character from a Roman novel, but based on real people, was a former slave who threw dinner parties so lavish they had multiple courses, live entertainment, and a guy whose whole job was to announce the time. Trimalchio had a guy whose whole job was to say what time it was. That's not wealth, that's performance art about wealth. In Rome had entire neighborhoods full of people doing exactly that. The lesson from the freedman? The people blocked from the official wealth systems often build the actual wealth systems. The velvet rope keeps some people out long enough that they build their own door.
Level 3. The plebeian worker. Net worth? Barely positive. Vibes? Exhausted. You're free. You're a citizen. You can vote. Your vote means almost nothing, but you have it. You work every day. Construction, farming, dock work, selling bread from a little stone counter on a street that smells like you'd expect a street in 100 AD to smell. You make around 3-4 denarii a day, which sounds fine until you realize that a decent apartment in Rome costs 300 denarii a year, bread is 2 denarii a loaf, and meat is a special occasion situation. You are, financially speaking, 1 bad month away from a very bad year, but Rome had a program for you. Bread and circuses. The government handed out free grain to Roman citizens. This was called the annona. At its peak, about 200,000 Romans got free grain every month just for being Roman. This wasn't generosity. This was crowd control. A hungry mob is an angry mob, and angry mobs in Rome had a habit of burning things down and also the people who owned the things. So the government said, here's free grain, here's free entertainment at the Colosseum, please stop setting us on fire. Sound familiar? The logic of give people just enough to not revolt is older than concrete. Rome invented concrete, by the way, and this strategy. The plebeians' financial life was precarious in a very modern way. One illness, one bad harvest, one landlord who decided to double rent because he could, and you were sliding down. The buffer between okay and disaster was basically a loaf of bread wide. The villain for the plebeian wasn't one person, it was a system designed to keep them functional enough to keep working, but never stable enough to stop depending on the people above them. Level 4. The Equestrian. Net worth, 400,000 sesterces minimum. You have arrived. Now we're talking. You are a knight, not the armor-clanking kind, the money kind. To be an equestrian in Rome, you needed to prove you had at least 400,000 sesterces in assets. That's roughly $4 to $5 million today. You're not old money. Old money doesn't like you, but you have new money, and new money in Rome could do a lot of things. You could become a tax collector, the publicani. The government auctioned off the right to collect taxes in certain provinces, and the winning bidder got to keep everything above what they promised Rome. This was essentially a government-licensed extraction operation. You bid 10 million, you collected 15 million, you kept 5 million. This was legal, this was encouraged, this was how Rome worked. The equestrians also ran the big financial operations, lending money, backing trade voyages, financing construction projects. Rome didn't have banks like we do, but it had argentari, money changers and lenders who operated out of little booths in the forum and charged interest rates that would make a modern credit card company blush. The equestrians' secret power was leverage. They used other people's money, borrowed from networks of other rich Romans, to finance deals that returned more than the interest they owed. Sound familiar? That's private equity. That's venture capital. That's a Tuesday in modern finance. The equestrian knew the oldest trick in wealth building. It's not about how much money you have, it's about how many times you can make the same money work before lunch.
Level 5. The Senator, Senatus. Net worth 1 million sesterces minimum. Politics is the product. You need at least 1 million sesterces to be a senator. That's the price of admission, $10 million roughly, just to sit in the room. But here's the real game. Senators in Rome weren't supposed to be in business. It was illegal for senators to own merchant ships or run commercial operations directly. So what did they do? They used proxies, freedmen, relatives, trusted slaves. They ran the businesses while the senator kept his hands clean and his toga white. The senator was a holding company. He just didn't put his name on the letterhead. The senator's real asset wasn't money. It was access. He decided which roads got built, which contracts got awarded, which laws protected which industries. He was the regulation, the regulator, and the regulated all at once. Rome invented the conflict of interest and then invented the process of pretending it wasn't a conflict of interest. The senator threw elaborate dinner parties, convivium, not because he liked people, but because alliances were built at tables. Your political future was basically catered. You needed to be seen with the right people, eating the right food, talking about the right nothing. A senator's dinner party had a strict seating chart. The closer you sat to the host, the more important you were. Romans understood that physical proximity to power was power. Silicon Valley figured this out 2,000 years later and called it being in the room where it happens. Level 6. The mega-rich, ultra-wealthy aristocrat. Net worth, we stopped counting. Multiple provinces. Marcus Liccius Crassus. You need to know this man.
Crassus was, by most historical estimates, the richest person in Roman history. He owned silver mines. He owned thousands of slaves, including a team of 500 trained as architects and builders. He owned a private fire brigade. Here's where it gets dark. When a building in Rome caught fire, and Rome, being mostly wooden apartment blocks, caught fire constantly, Crassus's fire brigade would show up, and then they would negotiate. The building is on fire, your life savings are on fire, your family is on the street, and Crassus's men are standing there with buckets saying, "We'll put it out. How much is this building worth to you right now?" Once you agreed to a sufficiently terrible price, they put out the fire. If you didn't agree, they let it burn and then bought the lot cheap. This man ran a protection racket with buckets. Crassus understood something brutal and true. Desperation is a pricing mechanism. When someone has no alternatives, any price becomes acceptable. He manufactured the desperation and then sold the solution. The ultra-wealthy in Rome didn't just accumulate assets, they accumulated dependency. Thousands of people in Rome needed something from Crassus, a job, a loan, political protection, someone to stop their house from burning down. That web of dependency was the real wealth. The silver mines were just the bonus. The villain at this level isn't greed exactly, it's architecture. The ultra-rich built systems that required people to keep needing them. The goal was never make money. The goal was become unavoidable.
What is wild about these levels is that each one had a floor, a point below which the system wouldn't let you fall too far because a completely broken underclass stops being useful, and each one had a ceiling, a point above which the system made it extremely difficult to climb because too much upward mobility threatens the people at the top. Rome called this dignitas, your social worth, your rank, your place. It was invisible, unwritten, and enforced constantly. You didn't need a law saying you can't become a senator. You just needed the price of entry to be 1,000,000 sesterces, which effectively said the same thing in math. Modern finance inherited every single layer of this. The asset-backed loan that helps the rich get richer while the poor can't access credit. That's Crassus with better paperwork. The tax system structured so that investment income gets taxed less than labor income. That's the Equestrian using leverage while the plebeian sweats at the dock. The corporate proxy structure that lets executives benefit from businesses while maintaining legal distance. That's a senator with a shell company. Rome didn't die because it ran out of money. Rome had money. Rome died in part because the distance between the top and the bottom got so large that the middle stopped believing the system was worth defending. When the barbarians came, a lot of regular Romans shrugged. Why die for a system that treated you like a line item? So here's the question Rome leaves us with. Every wealth system in history has had the same basic architecture. A few mechanisms that move money up, a few safety valves that keep the bottom from exploding, and a story, a really, really good story about why the whole thing is natural, deserved, and basically fine. Rome's story was virtue. The rich were rich because they had virtue. The poor were poor because they lacked it. We changed the word. We kept the story. The good news? The freedmen figured it out. The guys nobody expected to build wealth, who weren't supposed to be in business, who got blocked from the official doors, they found the side doors, and then they built the whole building. Every era has a side door. The question is whether you're spending your energy knocking on the front door they built to keep you outside, or looking for the one they forgot to lock. If this made ancient Rome feel uncomfortably current, you're not imagining it. Subscribe, because next time we're going to talk about the one Roman financial strategy that actually did survive intact and is sitting in your brokerage account right now. If you know what it is, put it in the comments. First person to get it right gets their comment pinned. See you then.